The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
This is the functional equivalent of bombing innocent civilians. It's time that the District of Columbia told the Congress to go straight to hell.
All right, Democratic Congresswoman Holmes Norton not too pleased with the ongoing budget debate here and the potential the government could be shut down. And as someone who represents the district, very concerned about the fact that everyone in the district could suffer mightily. She says, reaction to tough love from a pretty tough guy himself, Donald Trump, joining me now on the phone. Donald, what do you make of the Congresswoman's view that this is just essentially telling the American people, go to hell if we shut down?
Well, it's a very sad day for this country, and it really does kneel lack of leadership by the president.
What could or should he have been doing?
Well, he should have passed this before October 1st when he had all the votes. He could have done it without the Republicans, essentially. And amazingly, he waited. He procrastinated, which I guess he seems to be famous for. But very easy to solve if he did it prior to October 1st. And people don't even believe that he didn't do that.
You know, there are those. In fact, we're going to talk to one tonight, Mike Lee of Utah, who says that this was a setup, that the president has sort of served this up to damage Republicans. It seems a little extreme. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree at all, Neil. I think that he looks very bad. I think the Republicans look bad. The Democrats look bad. But the president looks terrible. I mean, he's supposed to be the leader. He is our great leader. And frankly, he's so great.
Now, speaking of the great leader, you look pretty good in some of these polls I've been seeing of late. One Wall Street Journal poll has you right behind Mitt Romney for the presidential nomination within the Republican Party. That stunned a lot of people. But it could explain why you were called, briefed on these negotiations as a prospective Republican presidential candidate. Are you?
Well, I do look good, I guess, but I think my message is good. I'm tired of seeing this country laughed at and scoffed at. I'm very tired of seeing the disrespect that people have, in particular other nations, for our country. China's ripping us off. OPEC's ripping us off. And people know my views, and I guess they like my views because the polls seem to be very strong, although it's very early, but the polls seem to be very strong.
Do you think they really got strong when you started making the birther comments and that you questioned whether the president was born here and that the crafty business guy you are, I'm wondering if that was by design, throw a lightning rod and see what it gets?
Well, it was not by design, but there is a question as to whether or not he was born here. He doesn't have a birth certificate. His parents don't know what hospital he was born in. His relatives are all arguing over which hospital. His grandmother said he was...
But Donald, his people, he does have a birth certificate, and it has been presented, and he has gone through the motions. So you think that's the case?
He has a certificate of live birth, which is totally different and at a much lower standard. He does not have a birth certificate. And frankly, his grandmother in Kenya said he was born in Kenya.
So, by pushing this issue, what are you trying to say? That he's not a legitimate president?
Well, I don't like this issue. I hope he can give his birth certificate at some point. If I won the nomination, assuming I decide to run and I win the nomination, I'd like to beat him head up. I don't like this issue. I think it's a terrible issue from the standpoint of the country. But there's a real question as to whether or not he was born in this country, Neil.
So, looking at the response you've gotten in the polls, you were surging already, but since you went into this birther thing, I really think you really surged. So,
well,
would this be a...
Neil, I don't know if it was for that reason, frankly, or if it was for the very simple reason that people know they're not going to be ripped off as Americans, as United States citizens by other countries, like China, like OPEC, like plenty of others.
You might be right, Alan, but this other issue didn't hurt. I guess what I'm asking you is, you have entertained possibly running for president before, and some cynics out there are saying, well, he's doing this to bump up apprentice ratings, which did get an appreciable bump up since this talk started swirling.
Well, Neil, you know for a fact, because you see ratings, I don't need to bump up the ratings. The Apprentice is the #1 show on NBC. It's one of the hottest shows on television. The demographics are among the best. So I don't need that. And frankly, I'm not doing it for that reason. Obviously, we're dealing really in a much bigger field than that.
So you're going to announce in June?
Well, I'm going to announce my decision sometime prior to June, and you may be very surprised as, Neil, say it again?
Okay, so it would happen on my show.
Well, let me just tell you, you may be very surprised as to what my decision is. I hate what's happening to this country. The leadership is not there.
It could be a very long day for you, though, if you end up doing it on Fox and Friends. That's all I'm saying.
Well, you know we'll be talking to you always, Neil. I love your show, and you're a great guy.
All right. Donald Trump, thank you very much. Good seeing you again, or hearing you.
Thank you very much.
Donald Trump.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.